Hey everybody, welcome to Leon's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. Today we're going to do some repairs on a ProMac 55. This appears to be a fairly late ProMac 55. Again, I'm not an expert on these, but just the yellow paint looks really good. This logoing looks like it would be mid-70s, late 70s. And I'm questioning whether the foam padded handlebar was just something that was added at some point. I honestly don't know. But it's a pretty clean saw, all things considered. I took it apart last night to start cleaning it up a little bit because it had the normal accumulations of junk and grease and oil and all the other things. And it has spark. In fact, I'll go ahead. Guess we'll do that demonstration right now. At least it had spark last night. If it doesn't now, then that means I was unsuccessful in keeping water out of the ignition. But I think I was okay. Still has spark. I like that. That's one less thing we have to worry about. So really, that should mean we need to take a peek at the carburetor. That fuel hose is not too stiff. We'll see if it'll come off the carburetor without breaking. But the real important thing, and we'll take a second to chat about this, is the fuel tank seal. Now, at this point, I just assume any one of these saws that I get in is going to have a bad tank seal. Just going to assume it. So we'll look at it as it comes apart, but there's basically a seal. It's in a rough square, and it was originally cork. Seals the tank. The rest of this is a black goo. You can kind of see some of it right here. Now, most of the time that's reusable, at least what I have found. But we'll see. We'll play this one by ear. What I do know is those cork gaskets shrink, especially when they haven't been used for a long time, when a saw's been sitting around empty, just, you know, on a shelf, in a corner. That cork dries up, and you'll put fuel in this, and it'll either, what I see primarily is front leak or back leak right into the carb chamber here, and it makes the saw unusable when it's leaking like that. The aftermarket has stepped in, and I guess I haven't... I didn't bring those out with me. I'll have to snag those. They've stepped in, and there are reproduction cork gaskets that you can throw in here, which are just fine. But there's also some Viton rubber ones, and that's what I prefer. I just think it's going to last longer. If you really want to do it the hokey pokey way, which I have done in a pinch, you can also use MotoSeal to replace that entirely. You have to use a fair amount of it, and it's a mess to clean up when you sandwich it down. You've got to be pretty diligent about wiping it up at the seam there. So I like that as a last-ditch scenario if you really have to make a quick repair. Yeah. So I think let's go ahead. Again, I'm going to just assume this is bad because it's been sitting for a long time without fuel in it. So we're going to go ahead and tear the saw down far enough to get in there and replace that. We'll take a peek at the carb and then put it back together and see how it goes. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is get the handle out of the way. And this is not the most convenient thing to do. As most of these saws, yeah, see, your socket is at a janky angle there. You can't get into that inner one all that well. So, I like to... Alright, that wasn't super tight. Break it loose and then get your round shank flat blade screwdriver and spin it out from there. This is part of why I cleaned this thing up ahead of time, because this is a common area to get completely crusted with crapola. Alright, this one I think, be able to get a, yeah, usually how it works. So not McCulloch's best design there. And that insert is just there in the handle itself. This one's doesn't appear like it's going to fall out, but that will be loose in many of these handles, so kind of something to pay attention to. Let's see if this is going to fight me. Okay. In theory, you don't have to take this off, but it's a real trick if you don't. Trying to slip it past the handle, especially when there's a rubber grip there. I think it would be a case of trying to save time and ending up wasting time. Alright, we'll leave the bottom strap on, but we do need to get this back screw out. It's under a little tension. Oh, that's been slightly bent at some point. Nothing too bad. And this will also allow the black grip to come out, so we're just going to take it out right now so that it's not falling all over the place. Now, even though this is bent up to keep that screw from moving, the screw wasn't tightened down all the way before that was bent into place, so we'll take some time to fix that as well. Alright, is the throttle, that's a no. I didn't need to take that loose. What am I smoking, guys? We're only taking the top off, not the whole thing. Oh well. It'll let me find out that that other screw is loose, and that we need to tighten it. What am I smoking here? Okay, let's try that again. We probably ought to take the carburetor off. And before we unbolt it, since that's an old fuel hose, I'm going to see if I can get that to come loose. And if I even think it's even close to brittle or breaking, we're going to replace it. So far, the rubber is somewhat pliable. That came off. We're going to see. We will see. Slip that out of the choke. There we go. Alright. That was not very tight. But the gasket's still sealed, that's for sure. You want to be persnickety, don't you? It's not common, but I've seen, there we go. I've seen one side of a gasket release and not the other, and then break that little insulator in the middle. That's not terribly good when that happens. Okay. Gasket stayed on the insulator. That works for me. Walbro SDC what? 58. That's interesting. That casting was changed at the factory from a 40, was that a 48A to a 58, or 49A to a 58. Either 58 or 58A. Very interesting. Do I know exactly what the differences are between those two? Nope. Not a clue. But Walbro liked continuous improvement. Okay. Trying to tell if moisture's made it in here. And I'd almost bet that it has. So it's probably not a bad thing that we're taking this apart. I'm going to start back here. And there's only 3 screws that holds this cover on. And if they fight me like that, they get the impact. Because I don't feel like it fighting. Or breaking or damaging anything. Not when I can do that. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You get in the slot there, buddy. And just for good measure, we'll do this one too. Ha! You see how tight that was? I am going to bet you dollars to donuts that this thing was leaking fuel when it was parked. Alright. There is a spacer in here that likes to fall down. Now, since we're taking this off, no big deal. But when we go to put it back on, it is a big deal because you got to get it to stay in there where you slip this down so it doesn't fall off in the tank 100 times. So, take a peek in there before you take this apart so you can see what's supposed to be going on. Save yourself a little frustration. Alright. I'm going to pry right back here. Nice hidden area. Look how easy that released. I almost think this has been apart before, and I almost think that was an aftermarket cork gasket, or it could have been OEM. I think this has been replaced before. I also think it still would have leaked. Alright, my suspicion that moisture has made it into this tank at some point was correct. It's not bad though. There's no loose material. I can tell you the most recent time was when I hosed it off. Cap gasket's missing. And I would bet that, yeah. Yep. We need to retrofit a duckbill in there. I've never managed to get one of these apart to see what the McCulloch one looks like. I just say to hell with it and use the Homelight duckbill because it works just as good. Alright, so we want to clean up this surface really, really well. Give that new gasket every fighting chance to seal. And that paint that's chipping there is a mix of the corrosion and probably the leaks. So, and this airbox, like I say, this has been off before, I can tell. It's missing all of its sealant out here, so we are going to use some Moto Seal. We'll keep the black sealant around the back. But we'll drop a little Moto Seal right down into here. Actually, I'm not convinced I like the look of that just yet. Yeah, I would be almost certain that this has been apart before. Okay, that ought to suffice. This is just about sealing dirt and sawdust out of the air intake. That doesn't have to hold fuel back. Okay, so these new rubber ones, I dig that other one out. They start off thicker. Granted, that other one's been compressed. But look at that. See the difference? This is going to make a good tight seal, and if it ever shrinks a little bit, well, it's still going to seal. So, just work it into the groove. This one, it was nice, the cork wasn't all stuck and glued into the the groove here, but if you do have remnants of cork in there, you need to take the time to dig those out and clean that groove. Then that new seal just sits in there nice and beautiful like so. And if you're lucky, you can set it down into place. Not any hassle. Alright, I'm going to start the rear screws just so that I don't shift anything about and make a mess. The thickness of that gasket has it sitting a little high. And I don't care about that. That's fine. There we go. That'll hold everything aligned and in place. Oh, and that fuel filter didn't drop quite, but down where there it goes. Alright. See if I can do this without too much cussing. The gasket being a little proud actually helps this process a little bit. Oh. Don't let go. Don't declare victory until you know you're sitting on that. Ooh, and I was close to off. Oh, I may still be. Oh, shoot. Okay. There we go. Nope. There. Okay. You gotta watch down in there. That post it's not even as big as my pinky that you gotta get this on. Okay. After that, the taper head on these screws is gonna center everything up. And I care most about that gasket sealing, so that's what I'm gonna tighten first. And I'm going to tighten it down until it stops on that insert that's in the tank. I think I just reached it. Yep. That is not going to leak. And now, we'll throw the screwdriver on the floor because, well, why not? That's pro-level stuff right there, isn't it? Okay, looks like most of my mess is contained inside the airbox, and actually doesn't look a whole lot worse than the black goop that's supposed to be there. A little bit snuck out right here that I want to clean up. That's a neater job than what would have come from the factory, and none snuck out right there. Okay, but you can see inside we've sealed its corner, 3 sides. Can't get any sawdust from the tank side in, but all those other ones, so we got it sealed. When this air filter drops in place, now it's forced to draw air through the filter and not around here, which would be excuse me, not good news. So let's go ahead and put the handle back on, but we'll take a second and wipe some of the yuck off that didn't want to come off with a bath. There we go. Already looks better. Start this. Come on. See if this stays captured enough to get this started, or if it's going to be a pain in the poop. Come on. Feels close. Looks a little cockeyed though. There it goes. There it goes. Pull that back up into place, but I don't want it tight just yet. One of my things I don't do before I make a video is I don't go out on the web too often, or on YouTube, and so, look for, hey, has anybody done a repair on a da-da-da-da-da? If I haven't done one, I just go and do it. So I don't know, there may be frickin' videos up the gazoo for ProMac 55s and stuff like this out there. There may not be, I don't know. This may be old news to everybody. Don't need the impact anymore there. Oh yeah. I want to strip it. There we go. That's tight. Okay. Clutch looks good. Bearing is nice and smooth. There's still a reed in this muffler. Looks bent awful far up. I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to be like that. My guess is this is going to be loud. Extraordinarily loud. Alright. Walbro, what did I say? A 58A? Yeah, SDC 58A. You just get a baseline like I love to do, and we'll see if things are holding pressure as it sits. Okay. Actually, they are. So then my question is, can I release it once and have it hold pressure twice? There's fluid in there. And the answer is no. You see that? Especially a carb that you haven't had apart. Never go with just one pump. Release that pressure. All I'm doing is pressing down a little bit. And now she leaks like a sieve. If it's been sitting for a long time, that needle can be just, stuck. And, yeah, give you a false sense of security. Also, if the diaphragm has gotten rock hard and it can't move, it can give you that false sense of security. And in those cases, you get to practice your skills at taking the carburetor off multiple times. Okay. Didn't leave me much of a pry hole here. Come on, baby. Nope. Well, I'm going to stick a little tool down in that atmospheric vent hole and see if it'll pop off that way. That way, if the diaphragms happen to still be good, I won't cut them with a razor knife, I hope. There we go. That actually couldn't have been a better demonstration, but that's part of why there's fluid in the carburetor, because of when I'm hosing it off. That atmospheric vent hole will allow water in. Now, it doesn't smell rotten. See how our diaphragms. Well, that appears to be stuck in place. Yeah. Hear that? If your diaphragm makes noises like that, do yourself a favor and replace it. You will not be happy with the performance. Those have hardened. And this had moisture in it long before I got to it. And some fuel has dried up in here before. So it's good that we're taking this apart. This would have been one of those carbs that you'd have put on and then had to take right back off. Everything is stuck on this thing. Okay. Ugh. Nope. Don't want that in there. Oh. Well now. Okay. One difference on a SDC58A is apparently you could... It's a fixed high-speed jet, but apparently there were jet options that were available. This looks eerily similar to the setup that's on a Super Pro 125. There were 4 or 5 different jet sizes that you could change out because they are a fixed high-speed jet. Very interesting. Oh, and somebody has wallered that screw head out just a smidge. Not good. But I think we can make it work. Alright. Capture that spring because that we want to reuse. That needle we do not want to reuse. Alright, I'm going to take some time and blow all this out with some carb cleaner. See if I can scrape some of this trash. Oh yeah. That's some hardened varnish. We'll get all that crap out of there. We'll come back. Okay. That allowed me to discover that I am down to my last SDC carb kit. So whatever my next project is this weekend, it ain't going to be something that has one of those in it. Whoops. But some more ordered, so whatever. Alright. Before I dive into that, I took and covered up. Took this high-speed jet out. I wanted to cover this. So all that is the nozzle. So you see that bulb sticking down into the carburetor? That's where your main jet is. That's where fuel, most of the time when you're not at idle, that's where the fuel's coming out at. Okay? There's a copper sealing ring down in there and just a hole. So the check valve, the high-speed check valve, is retained in this nozzle. Okay. See how there's that little clip in there and then that disc? This, ironically, is easier to replace. Well, it's replaceable. I won't say it's easier to replace, but if you're trying to reuse components, this is easier than trying to reuse components from the drive-in style. This threaded style, you can pop that wire retainer out and get your blind, or open center punch out, punch a piece of material, slip it in there, slip that retainer back in, you're good to go. So what that means is when you're playing with carb cleaner and air and all that, you want to be damn careful around this. Don't damage it if you don't have to. These things have a real tendency to have the slot wallered out because of somebody getting a little overzealous on installation. So I'm going to try not to be that guy. See if I can get this wider. Yeah, I can. Okay. All you're doing is sealing it to the copper. You're not roto hammering the damn thing down, That's it right there. So this is a point... That 2.8? Yeah, 0.28. That's what that orifice size is. Probably 0.028. If I used my brain, it would be 0.028, even though that's not what's printed on there. And it has a J stamped on it, so maybe there was a jet sizing chart. Maybe the J stands for jet. I don't know. What I know is I'm ready to put this thing back together with some new parts. Now, it came apart with... Got some extra stuff in here because that is an old SDC kit. Actually had the accelerator pump in it still. That hasn't been part of the SDC kits for quite some time. So when this came apart on the fuel pump side, we had the gasket, we had the diaphragm, but we didn't have the auxiliary diaphragm, and McCulloch really liked to see those used. So we're going to on reassembly. So what's that look like? Well, first it looks like you're getting the thing in the right spot. You got your black one. And there's this other one that has the big hole in the center cut out that lays right on top of this one. And it doubles up on these check valves. McCulloch is the OEM that I see using this. I didn't ever see this on Homelight, but because that's what they did, that's what we're going to do. I'm not going to pretend to understand it. What is different about this? Maybe it's the piston ported engine. I don't know. No idea. But as always, I want to seal this side up first so that we can get the inlet needle in and drop some pressure on it to see if we're going to have any problems. I don't expect any, but do we ever really expect problems? Sometimes you know they're coming, and you try to convince yourself that they aren't. And Mr. Murphy jumps up and bites you in the butt anyway, because that's what he does. Alright, I did swab that seat a little bit with a swab. Suppose I could have phrased that better. Nothing gunky or nasty down there. So we're just going to go with a new needle, see what we get here. Doesn't look like this arm has ever been adjusted to speak of, so I'm going to keep using it. These kits come with new ones, but what's the old saying? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it survived in this carb all of these years, I'm going to assume it can survive a few more. It is, after all, just a piece of aluminum. And aluminum doesn't dissolve in gasoline the last time I checked. Okay. Time to drop some pressure again. Alright. Little leak. Let's see where it stops. If it stops. And that tells me it's a gasket. Yeah. Probably right there. Yep, right there. It's always right there. Okay. I want to try something, because I've demonstrated this on a lot of carbs that this can happen. And most of the time I pull that gasket off and I seal it with some gasket sealant. Somewhere there's either a video or an instruction from one of these OEMs that talks about soaking those gaskets in a little bit of fuel mix before installation to help them swell and seal. I'm going to see. I'm just going to see. I'm going to assemble it the way it is. And see if run a little fuel mix through it. We'll seal it up, or if I end up with a wet spot under the hood here. I won't know that today. It would take overnight. But that's okay. Alright, you pump back up. The trick is then knowing... Oh yeah. Dropping the cover on didn't do anything to it. What it is about gasket material. I do see, of course, the parts could be made in Japan or Singapore on the back of this Walbro package. Walbro is not, or has not been, an American company forever. It may never have been. I honestly don't know. I should have looked that up. I know Brown was the predecessor to it. Just like Tecumseh and Lawson essentially were the same thing. But I don't know if it was a matter of Walbro buying Brown or the name change. I suspect Walbro bought it. See, now the pressure's gone down. It's barely doing anything. So I suspect the fuel will swell that and seal it up. We will find out. And this saw will be around here far long enough before it is sold for me to know if there's going to be a problem. And I strongly suspect there will not. It's nice to pump one up rock hard before you assemble it and just know, but hey, life ain't perfect, is it? Alright. That's the fuel hose. You guys think that'll leak? I think that'll leak. I don't think that'll leak. I know that that will leak. And as much as I want to ignore that, that would be stupid, because all the work we did to seal the tank up and the airbox just to have it leak around that hose. No thank you. I tried this once before. This grommet is one that works on the XL500 airbox. It's not quite as wide as what you would want in here, but it's close enough to work. So we're going to try this again on a second saw. I don't remember what the first one was. It might be that Pro Mac 1010 that's behind me. But just using a standard piece of hose, I truly wish I didn't throw screwdrivers on the floor every 5 minutes in this video. Alright. Maybe that'll be enough working space that I can not be stupid. I'm not going to hold my breath, though. Come on, baby. There we go. Only downside is when you have a... Come on, baby. Original style filter like that, you're going to have to replace it. But you guys saw how easy that came out. This is shrunk. Now, could you load it up with sealant and put it back in? Yeah, you could. And I'm not at all opposed to doing that when you have to. Today we don't have to. Now, you see what I mean? The grommet's not quite as big as you would want, but it'll work. Maybe someday I'll source something that's 100% specific to this. I'll tell you what, if it works, I can feel it in there. Well, and that goes back in. Hey. Well, it won't work on video because, you know, I don't like things to work on video. I like them to make a liar out of me. Thank you. Come again. Maybe that's part of the problem. This, there it goes. Guess it's hitting right up there just a smidge. But I don't, oh, I shouldn't have thrown that away yet. Well, that's the other thing I'm running low on is that fuel hose. We'll see how long it takes to...
Hey fam! Don't stop, get it. Can they see me?
They, thankfully no, they can just hear you.
Hi! Oh bud, he's not pro. He's not pro.
Kids these days, I tell you, can't get no respect. Don't spend a dime on that kid, dear.
Don't stop.
Not one dime. Beat it.
You beat it. Okay.
Hey, we're not Michael Jackson up in here.
Don't stop.
I'm raising that one and I fear for the world. Anyway, 1/8 by 1/4 hose. Slips into that tank quite nicely. Whoops. And I can't seem to grab a hold of it now because I'm not that talented. I'm not pro. You heard her. I'm not pro. I hope I cut that long enough. That's one thing when you do this. Ooh. Did I leave enough to get a curly Q on this? And I don't know that I did. Guess we'll find out. Also, what am I doing here? I need to stretch that end to fit this bulb, because that's going to suck to install. Okay, it's coming back to me now. It's coming back. If only that fuel nipple was tapered like that center punch, this would all be so very much easier. But it isn't. Okay. Let's see how much cussing and screaming and fighting we gotta do. Ouch. Ouch. Oh yeah. It's gonna suck just as much as I thought it was. Damn it. I swear. The problem is you've got to get past that first rib. Well, it's the only rib on this barb. Get past that before she'll hold in place. Okay, I'm close. Real close. If I don't rip it off here. Okay. This is another example of me fighting the aftermarket hoses, or not wanting to. I just don't find them to be that high quality. For a while there was a guy making a kit that had an aluminum insert that you would cement into the tank instead of using a grommet. And that worked pretty well. But for these larger barb hoses, you still have to fight with this little process. And a rubber grommet, pretty easy to fix down the road if it goes kaput. But since all of us who take the time to restore these are never going to let gas go bad in them, and let them sit around and dry up, it won't be a problem, right? If only you could see my face right now. Alright. That's not the curly Q I want. Let me go the other way. That's enough. By God. That is enough. See what I mean? Since there's no support in there, you've got to leave enough extra hose. I'd say about another inch, inch and a half to factory. I was doing that just because I always do. I wasn't really thinking ahead, so I'd like to say that that was all planned. Not so much. Now, can you get on there? Okay. Now I've kinked that. So I need to, there it is. Oh, that's so beautiful. Now you want to get your choke rod back in and slip down below here before you start screwing it down. Otherwise, it's not going to work so well. Ask me how I know that. And because the spacer and the gasket stayed into place, this shouldn't be terribly difficult if I'm close here. And I think that one's started, so why hasn't... Oh, because it needs to go down there. No. Keep this up, I'll tear the gasket loose, and there it goes. There she goes. Tighten up. Okay. Now we need to get the old fuel filter in, which means we need to cut our slash cut off of there, and honestly I probably could have left another extra, inch on this thing. And that wouldn't have been a bad thing. But we've got enough. At least I think we do. Come on, you. The extra inch, though, would have made this a hell of a lot easier to work around. Okay. Stupid ass phone. Swear. Alright, now will that drop on the right side? It did. It's to the ground, well, to the bottom of the tank. That has a nice, oh yeah, that is perfect. I'd like to say that was all intentional, but there was a tiny little bit of luck in there. I knew what I needed to do, but actually getting it done, sweet. Okay. And I noticed that this idle is set way too high, at least to my way of thinking it is. So I'm going to back it off a turn. Yeah, we'll see. We shall see. Now this little mess, this particular cap, I'm not sure if I have done this little mod to it or not. What do we have left in here? I think that ring should come out. Let's see how there's that outer ring there. I'm thinking that ought to come out. This thing's going to leak fuel all over the place. But again, I don't know how McCulloch thought this was supposed to be serviced. Maybe they didn't. Maybe it was just buy a new cap and be done with it. But we're not doing that. So that may be the wrong size. Wrong size for a home light. Don't know if I could smash it into a McCulloch cap or not without doing some damage. Kind of doubt it. Basically, we know there's an air passage from here through the cap to there, and that's all I need to do is get a duckbill down in there and a way to retain it. And it sure looks like that insert was pressed in there. I'll be danged if I can get it out right now. I'm going to go off camera for a minute, do some fighting, screaming, cussing, and I'll come back when I have an answer. Okay. I went ahead and drilled this out with the drill press, 5/16 inch. Make sure the tube at the bottom is still open. Don't drill so far that you drill through your cap. Blow everything out. Make sure the air still flows. I have done such things. 5/16 OD cylinder. Aluminum, plastic, doesn't matter. Standard duckbill valve. Well, now that cylinder is going to start. I had it started when I didn't want it to. Ah, come on, baby. What I don't want to do is smash the duckbill. So, I'm trying to do this in a way that I can demonstrate. There we go. Now it's started. Duckbill is still down. Push it into place. And then tap it into place. Done. That should work. Shouldn't leak gas. Coincidentally, the O-ring that I have listed for the 65358 home light fits this pretty well too. that should do it. So, let's drop the start. Let's not. I think we want to put a new starter rope on this thing. I think we do. I think we do. And this is going to go zing. Not zinging very fast, though. So, this is what happens when I put tools away. Oh, that's tight. And it's reminding me I do need to find one starter screw that was missing, but I can find that later. The common area of leakage on these is the oil tank gasket. But I put some oil in it last night just to let it sit to see if I was going to have to worry about it. And since there's not a puddle under it this morning, I am so not worrying about it. Alright, this screen has one damaged area right there. We're not going to worry about that too much. This isn't going to be a show saw, but you can super glue those if you're so inclined. There's a broken spot there. Yeah, I'm not too worried. Okay, this is part of why I like to do this with the housing off the saw. Gives you an opportunity to lubricate everything, and if you've hosed everything out, it gives you an opportunity to dry everything out. Because you certainly don't want moisture in a recoil system. Okay, so McCulloch like to use, and I will say it works decent because you don't have to worry about a knot hitting anything, but what they like to do is drive a little chunk of nail or something through the rope and then pull it down in there. And it does work quite effectively, but it can be a real pain in the ass to get out when it comes time to replace your starter rope. And it would appear I'm going to be fighting with it, which is awesome. Alright, let's see if we can do a little cheating here and loosen it up. Come on, you don't be a pain. Oh yeah, that loosened it. There we go. So you see what I mean? We got to somehow punch a hole in the rope and get that in there. Which we can do. Literally, it looks like a cut off nail. And that rope looks a mite little bit short. We'll add a little to the length and see if the spool will hold it. Looked like it would. I always like to burn the cut ends the minute I do it. That way it never sits there and frays. Alright, this is going to be the end. Man, there it is. Where's going to be the end that we put through? So I'm going to burn a little more than I would normally, just in the hopes that I can kind of caramelize it a bit. Ooh, there we go, right there. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Gives me a little bit to work with. So then, take your dental tool or sharp implement and try not to stab yourself in the freaking finger. And if you think you have that hole big enough, you don't. When you think it's so big that that thing's going to slip right through, it isn't. Because when you go and pull it out, half the time the hole almost disappears, just like that. So I'm going to do it again, and if it fights me again, I may heat the whole rope and see if I can get it to hold shape that way. I'm sure the guys that have been working on Macs forever have plenty of neat little tricks on this. This actually looks too freaking big. It's bigger than anything I've ever put through one of these before, my God. Rope strands like to come back together. Okay. We're going to really go for broke here. And I'm going to heat that right there. Yes, I could get the torch out. That might be, yes, that's warm. Might be more than I need to do. There we go. That held. Hopefully I didn't do that too much. Okay. I can, oop. Oh no. Ah! So close. Sharp edge there, I might have to file down. That's close though. Let's see if this pig mat did it. There we go. There we go. That's kind of what it looks like. Not high tech at all. Kind of a pain in the ass, really. Okie dokie. Make sure I feed this right. I think you feed through the big one first. Is that how I had it? Damn. No. Go through the little one first. I don't know what I'm doing here. The shape of it makes it look like if you go through the little one first, that'll create a bit of a relief in here for that nail to sit down. I think that's what it looks like. Yeah, I think so. I may have made that a little too stiff, but it worked for getting it in here. Okay, now I'll feed it through the next groove that's in there. we'll wrap it up and see if this is genius or stupidity. Say, you never have to worry about a knot catching on a flywheel pawl like you do on a home light. I will give it that. Okay. Yeah, I think we got it just about right. Except I wound, even after thinking about it, I still wound it the wrong freaking way. Which probably means I fed it the wrong freaking way. I did. That's not good. That's irritating. That's really irritating. What are the odds I can get this out of here without screwing up everything that I've done? Well, I guess they're better than I expected because it's moving. Whew! Okay. So easy, folks. It is so easy. Let's see if I can do it again. Can I be an idiot twice in a row? I have faith in my abilities. I can get through there. The little stringer keeps jamming it up. Okay. Take two. Okay, now you've already been flattened once, so I shouldn't have to fight with you a whole lot at this time. Okay. We're going for it. Remember, your engine is turning counterclockwise. Even when you think you remember, double check to make sure you remembered the right counterclockwise. Okay, makes that slip in real easily. Okay. I'm going to put a little oil on this. Just because. Two bushings in there. A little bit of oil can't be a bad thing. And who likes a noisy starter? Okay. So before you get excited and start tensioning your rope, make sure you get your screen back on. Come on, I don't need you uncoiling the whole rope. Okay. These screens primarily get broken from either an impact or being tightened down when they're not in that groove. Get it in the groove and it'll stay. I'm going to give two wraps of tension because I don't want to do this again. Good. Got dirty fingers, so the rope's going to get dirty, but sorry. Is what it is, isn't it? Boom. And when I find that hole, close. Close, but no cigar. Where the hell are you? Well, this is fun. This is really fun. Oh, come on. I don't need this crap from you. There we go. Now the rest can't be far away. Come on. There we go. As you're tightening this down, you're putting tension on that screen, so once it breaks, it's really hard to keep it from getting worse, but this one's not in terrible shape. Not bad enough for me to worry about. And you gotta have your starter screws tight, otherwise stuff's not gonna work, so hey, what can I say? Alright. Washer's still down there. Give myself a little more room here. We want to do a double knot on this bad boy. I still didn't leave myself enough room. There we go. And that little rat tail has annoyed me enough. Goodbye. There we go. Nice and smooth. That's the way we want it. Always do the easiest screws first, right? Not really, but I want an alignment point. The cylinder shroud has a tendency of making this particular screw a regular pain in the rump. And I don't think this is going to be any different. There it goes. Okay. That could have been worse. The one that was missing previously is down there. I will keep it missing till I go to the screw bin and see what I can find. I want this thing to line up. Visually, that looks close. And it's threading. Okay, we're making progress, folks. Almost enough progress to look like I might halfway know what I'm doing with this. And then I do that. Come on. Alright. Right there. Okay, and boom. Need to find a spark plug and some fuel. And we will see if we've done enough to make this bad boy run. I strongly suspect that we have. But I can't say for certain. There's a little rust on the seat of that spark plug. I don't like that. Funny, it's in a laser small engine box, but the reason that I saved them, they're actual Presto Light plug. So they can't be that bad. God knows Presto Light ignition systems are good. So unless they bought their spark plugs from China, they ought to be good too. Okay. I think we're going to drop some fuel in this bad boy and see if she'll bark at us. enough. When we start it, if for some reason there's a tank leak, I will know about it, but it won't make an abysmal mess. That rubber gasket, I would find that really stinking hard to believe. Not that that is a challenge. Alright. Let's see what she's got. Got something. What are we doing here? Smells oily. Alright. I'm not in the mood for that. That wasn't open very far. Let's try that. I don't know what she's doing. What are we doing here, saw? this saw. And I'm not sure what it is. Look at that. What is that carburetor doing? And there's all kinds of fuel mist there. We pressure tested that carb. It sure acts like it's leaking off. I wonder if that'll start. Is it vapor locked? That's got a bad... I'll knock it off. Yeah. Oil pump's trying to work. I think we got a leaking seal somewhere in here. This is changing tune way too much. Way too much. And my fuel cap repair isn't working as well as I had imagined it would either. But this thing, one downside to this design is you can't see what's going on in the carb without taking it loose. I can hear it perking in there. Look at all the vapors coming out of the engine too. See that? Yet I don't see it dripping any. A little wet on the bottom of the throttle plate. Alright, I gotta let this cool down before we can investigate any further. Not what I would hope for, but it would explain why it got parked, looking as good as it does. Just gonna have to dig a little deeper. Okay, I'm only taking guesses here, but I went ahead to pop the flywheel and the clutch because I wanted to see if it looked like we had a crankshaft seal leaking, and I don't think we do. And I don't know that I found the problem, but I found a problem. So this should be like this. Okay. The screw on this side goes through the cap, or through the points box, and down into the cylinder. Why does it look metallic right there? Whoops. Huh, fits that screw head. Whoops, that's stripped out. So when I pulled this apart, this screw was backed out against the back of the flywheel. Now, I'm not sure with where the point screws are on this side if that could have actually been changing the timing or not. But I'm going to run with that as the first problem. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this out, drop a helicoil in there, and get everything cleaned up and put back together, and give it another shot. You guys know how helicoils work. I don't need to add any more time to this video. We'll come back and see if I'm even close to right.